Chapter 477. Yen handed the stolen magical pills over to his assistant, and he was finally relieved after watching his assistant enter the airport without any problem. After that, Yen asked Adam, "Where's your young lord?" Adam replied lightly, "You'll know once you come with me." After he was done speaking, he signaled at the people around him before they dragged Yen over to the nearest off-road G-Wagon immediately. The convoy quickly left the airport as they headed towards the dog farm opened by Stephen in the suburbs. On the way to the dog farm, Adam called Alex before he said, "Mr. Anderson, Yen is in my hands now. I'm bringing him over to Don Stevens' dog farm now. If you want to come over, I will send someone over to pick you up immediately." Alex glanced at Emma, who was fast asleep at this time, before he replied, "All right then. Arrange for a car to pick me up from outside my house in 5 minutes." After making the pearl and clam bracelet for Emma that was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, Emma was finally able to sleep very well after wearing it. Therefore, she would never wake up in the middle of the night no matter what happened. Alex was not worried that Emma would find out that he had snuck out in the middle of the night. About 5 minutes later, Alex walked out of the house. There was already a Aston Martin parked outside at this time. Even though Alex had never met the driver before, the driver recognized him immediately and he quickly opened the door for Alex as he said respectfully, "Mr. Anderson, please." Alex nodded and got into the car before they headed out of the city. When Alex finally arrived at Stephen's dog farm, Adam was already there. This was Alex's first visit to Stephen's dog farm, even though he had already heard of this place for a long time. The location of the dog farm was very secluded and large in scale. As soon as he stepped out of the call, Alex could hear countless dogs barking and growling. Moreover, the voices of these dogs were very low and heavy, and it seemed as though they were all large dogs. It was rumored that the reason why Stephen owned this dog farm was mainly to raise, breed, and train some fighting dogs for the underground dog fighting event. Some people in the underworld were obsessed with dog fighting, and they would often organize competitions and bet tens of millions of dollars on the dogs that they liked. In addition to raising dogs, Stephen also regarded this as a torture ground. If there were anyone that he needed gone from this world, he would simply send them here to become rations for the vicious fighting dogs. There was a 3-story building in the yard of the dog farm, and this building was usually used by the staff as their office and resting ground. There was also a warehouse for storing dog food in the building and a secret room that Stephen usually used for lynching. At this time, Yen was hung on a frame in the dark with his hands completely tied up. The underworld of Oris Hill was not much different compared to the underworld in Korea. It had extremely strict rules and regulations, and these rules were still the same as those used by mobsters and gang members from over 100 years ago. Once the interests of the gang was violated, the first thing that the culprit would face was lynching. At this time, the 5 men dressed in black who Yen had sent to rob Paisel of the magical pills were also detained here. When Yen saw the 5 men, he was really frightened. He realized that this matter might actually have something to do with the magical pills. He could not help but wonder what these people were going to do to him now that he had already sent the magical pills back to China. At this time, Alex stepped into the building. Adam greeted him respectfully with a bow, saying, "Mr. Anderson, Yen and his 5 men are all here." Alex nodded slightly before he looked at Yen. After that, he smiled as he said, "Mr. Suki, it seems as though we finally meet again." "Ah, you are," Yen suddenly remembered Alex. When Yen was asking Paisel for the prescription for the magical pill at the Japanese Medicine Expo, Alex was right there. In fact, Yen initially thought that he was simply Paisel's subordinate or assistant at that time. Unexpectedly, he actually turned out to be the young lord of the Anderson family. Alex looked at Yen, who was hoisted up in the air, before he said in a cold manner, "Mr. Suki, you're really very courageous. Who gave you the audacity to send men to rob an old man of his magical pills? Are you sick and tired of living?" Yin panicked when he heard this and he blurted out immediately, "Mr. Anderson, this is all just a big misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Alex asked as he pointed at the 5 men dressed in black who were tied up on the ground next to him. "Don't these 5 men belong to you?" Yin hurriedly shook his head. "No. I don't know them at all."